record on this computer. Okay, so as we have already prayed, I will go straight into the study. So as I said, the title of our study is The Mark of Antichrist. Actually, what I want us to look into is this aspect, how the Bible presents this concept of the Antichrist. I know we are very much familiar with this word or this idea of the Antichrist. We have studied a lot, and a lot has been written in describing the Antichrist to say, okay, these are the characteristics of the Antichrist. Um, this is the Antichrist. Even we go into the minute details in trying to identify who is the Antichrist. And in most of the time, we tend to identify a theme, an entity, or a religious body to say that this is the Antichrist. Today, I'm not. What I want us to do is not actually like to identify who is the Antichrist. Okay, anyways, we cannot run away from that simply because even the lesson itself, it will give us a marker or an identification or some markers, I should say, some characteristics of the Antichrist, thereby that we can be using them to at least identify a group of people or an entity or someone who is qualifying to be called an Antichrist. So I'm not here like that we should be looking into concept to do like with how we identify Rome to be the Antichrist or this and that, but I just want us to see how the Bible presents this topic, mainly on the word Antichrist itself and the markers that surround this concept of Antichrist. I know we probably refer the term Antichrist. Um, Actually, when we are studying the book of Daniel and Revelation, so in most of the cases, when this word Antichrist pops up, we think about okay, events in the last days, the no buying and no selling events, the national Sunday law, this and that. We normally link this word to the final events. Um, but as we will see in this study, it is evident enough that when you go in the book of Daniel and also the book of Revelation, there is no such a word as Antichrist. You will never find that a word, Antichrist. But there are some explanations of the qualities of a power that qualifies to be called an Antichrist. So mark my words here. I think I haven't said anything that you are not disagreeing. What I'm speaking is in the book of Daniel, as well as in the book of Revelation, these two books that we normally use to teach about the concept of Antichrist. If we read and if we go through these two books, we will not find anywhere where it is written the word Antichrist. But there are some other qualities of a certain entity that is being spoken in both of the books that qualifies that particular entity or particular body to be called an Antichrist simply because of the explanations and the qualities that are surrounding that particular uh, uh, institution or a particular body. So when we go in the Bible and look, or rather, when we search the word Antichrist, we will see that it was only used by one author of the Bible, and that is John. Yes, the very same John who wrote the book of Revelation, but he never used the word Antichrist in that book of Revelation, but elsewhere he used this word repeatedly. So, what I want us to do today is to look into what John wanted to communicate when it comes to the word Antichrist and some other issues that surround this word. So, uh, but first of all, let us look into how this word Antichrist, what it means actually. Uh, it's the Greek word number 500, which is Antichristos or Antichristos. Based on the concordance, is saying that it is taken from the Greek word 473, and or rather, it's the combination of 473 and 5547, which actually means an opponent, an opponent of the Messiah. So this will give us an understanding that when we talk about the word, or when we speak about the word Antichrist, actually what we are speaking, it's someone who is opposing the Messiah, an institution or an entity which opposes the Messiah. So it's an opponent of the Messiah. Let us look into the Bible and see this concept, because we normally talk about the Antichrist, speaking about the National Assembly law. We normally talk about the Antichrist speaking about the no buy and no selling event whatsoever. But when we look at the word Antichrist itself, actually, what it actually means is the opponent of the Messiah, someone who opposes the Son of God. Okay, so let us go into the Bible and see how John describes or explains to us this concept of the Antichrist. So, like I said, it is only John who wrote this word Antichrist of all the authors of the Bible. So, the first time that we read this word is in John chapter, rather, First John chapter 2, verse 18, which says, "Little children, it is the last time, and as ye have heard that Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time." So John told the believers that they have heard about the Antichrist. Okay, maybe we need to question ourselves. Where have they heard about the Antichrist? Anyways, we are not told, but it seems like um, those that read this episode that John wrote in those days, they were very much familiar with the concept that John was presenting here. It wasn't a new concept altogether, because when someone is like reminding you, oh, as you have heard about this, you have heard about that, it means you are very familiar, or it is not the first time that you are hearing that concept. So, by the virtue of John saying that you have heard that Antichrist shall come, it means prior to this, the believers were taught something concerning the Antichrist. So John was just reminding them, oh, brothers, you remember we sat together, we had a Bible study, and we talked about the power of the Antichrist. Now we said that Antichrist shall come. So he now said, even now, like presently, as I'm writing this episode, there are many Antichrists. Um, we don't usually consider that there are many Antichrists today, like we Christians living in the last days. But now, see, maybe let's consider this episode was written maybe 2000 years back. We are now in 2025. Um, uh, Anno Domini. I think I'm in the right track there. So it might be that this episode, it has been there maybe for 2000 years. So in those days, John said, even now there are many antichrists. So we, on the other hand, we normally articulate or we normally take this word, the Antichrist, to mean or rather to refer to one entity. But in John's time, this word was not only referring to a single individual or a single entity. He said there are many antichrists. So I think this will pop up something to us to say that when we talk about the Antichrist, I think we should take it from the Bible or we should take it from John to say that uh, the Bible doesn't present one entity or one individual or one being to be an Antichrist, but it says that there are many Antichrists. And uh, the fact that there are many Antichrists, John said, whereby we know that it is the last time, or rather, it is in the last days. Meaning to say that as we are living in this world, there's one thing that can guarantee us that truly we are living in the last days. And this is how John presents it to say that the evidence of the presence of so many antichrists is an evidence that we are living in the last time. We don't need to struggle or then to identify like actually okay, so who is the Antichrist? Or rather, okay, this particular body constitutes the Antichrist. Paul is saying, look around. Rather, John, sorry, not Paul, but John is saying, look around. You will see that there are so many Antichrists in these days. Now, as we are speaking, so as I was saying that this episode was written maybe 2000 years ago. What about today? If John in those days said there are many antichrists, what about 2000 years later, as in the times that we are living in? We should say that there are truly many antichrists out there. And it is evident enough that for the fact that there are many antichrists, we are truly in the last days. So I want us to consider this concept to say that the way John is presenting it, he's saying that the presence of many antichrists, it's an evident that we are living in the last days. It's an evident that we are living in the last time. He did not present Antichrist as a singular entity, but he presented this concept as something that constitutes plural beings or plural entities. Okay, the second time we read about this is in John chapter, rather, First John 2, verse 22. John said, who is a liar, but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son. So, as we have seen in the first verse of our lesson today, to say that John told us, or John told his fellow believers, to say that if you look around and you scrutinize the current situation that we are living in, you will agree with me that there are so many antichrists, and this should give you an evidence that we are now living in the last time. And John went on again to say that, okay, how can you tell that this particular individual is an antichrist? So that's why he went on further to give an explanation. He said, who is a liar, but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ. He is Antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son. In another way, after John reminded his fellow believers about the presence of so many antichrists, he said, don't look elsewhere. Don't be struggling to identify or struggling to say, okay, what are the qualities that constitute someone to be an antichrist? He said, it is so simple for you to identify an antichrist. It is he who is a liar in the first place. So, the characteristics of being an antichrist, John said, he who is a liar. So, when we consider a liar, we know that a liar is someone who knows the truth but choose not to tell the truth, or maybe I should say, someone who knows the truth but rather choose to tell or to speak in opposition to, or something that opposes it, something that is contrary to that particular truth, and that particular person is known as a liar. So a liar, according to the verse here, is someone who knows about the truth about Jesus Christ, but choose to deny it and then go about teaching others the contrary. Because John is saying, who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? Meaning to say that this particular person or this particular individual, he knows about something about Jesus. He knows the truth about Jesus, that truly Jesus is the Christ. But rather, instead of proclaiming this truth, he chooses not to proclaim the truth that Jesus is the Christ, but rather now goes to the contrary to present a message or to present, uh, um, um, yeah, I should say a message that is contrary to Jesus being the Christ. And we all know, or yeah, we all know that the word Christ actually is the very same word which is the Messiah or the anointed one. So in John's time, it was evident enough to say that those people that were teaching that Jesus is not the anointed one, Jesus is not the Messiah, in another ways, those people that were denying that the one who came by the name of Jesus is truly the Messiah, they were qualifying to be called the Antichrist. They knew the true uh, description of Jesus Christ to say that he was not merely a human being, but rather the true Son of God, the promised Messiah, the anointed one, but they rejected and went on to proclaim a contrary identification of Jesus Christ or a contrary message concerning Jesus Christ. So that's why John is saying that those that deny Jesus to be the Christ, they are liars, they are antichrist. Okay, so what we are seeing here in this verse is that uh, um, a liar is someone who knows the truth, but rather choose not to proclaim that particular truth, but go on then to teach others the contrary of that particular truth. This is why John reminded the believers that they know the truth better. If we read on verse 21, he said this, I have not written unto you because you know not the truth, but because you know it, and that no lie is of the truth. So as you can see here, John is dwelling much concerning, rather, he's dwelling much on the concept of Antichrist, but he's now linking it with this understanding of having the knowledge of the truth. So he's reminding his fellow believers to say, I recall, and I'm pretty much sure that you know the truth. You know, you are not the people that doesn't know the truth, but you are the people that knows the truth. And because you know it, and there is no lie in the truth, this is why I'm presenting to you to say that a liar is someone who actually knows it, who knows the truth, and rather choose to proclaim the contrary side of the particular truth. And simply because you know the truth and you cannot lie, you cannot lie, you cannot choose to be called an antichrist. So in another way, a liar um, is the one who knows about the truth about Jesus Christ, but choose to deny it and then go about teaching others the contrary. So, as we have said, or as we have read in the previous verse, it is in the very same category, or in the very same explanation of a liar and antichrist, as in the sense that someone who knows the truth about particular being, that is Jesus Christ, but rather now he chooses deliberately, he chooses to say, no, I will not proclaim or I will not teach people, I will not tell people this flip side of Christ being, or rather, this truth about Jesus Christ, but rather I will present Christ in this other way. I think you are getting me what I'm trying to explain here, or what John was trying to tell his fellow believers. He said, a liar, someone who knows the truth, but rather choose not to proclaim that truth. That particular person, rather, John says he is an antichrist. So, in another way, when the Bible is presenting to us, or when the Bible is speaking about the antichrist, we need to take in mind that an antichrist is also someone who is a liar. And for you or for me to be considered a liar, one characteristics of being a liar is that I should know the truth. Let me emphasize this. One characteristic for me to be called a liar is that I should know the truth, and I should deliberately choose not to dwell on the truth, not to preach the truth, not to teach the truth, not to proclaim the truth, but rather to proclaim something contrary to the truth. So thereby I'll be called a liar, and I'll be called an antichrist, or rather, um, yes, I'll be called a liar. This is exactly as what Jesus said on John chapter 8, verse 44, speaking about the devil. He said this, you are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it all. I know you will recall to say that the devil was once in the truth before him being called the devil. This is what I want us to take it here. Before Lucifer tended to be called Satan, he was Lucifer, a cherub, a covering angel, meaning to say that he was in the truth in the first place. But simply because Christ here said he was a murderer from the beginning, we know that there was the beginning before the beginning. We can recall that Genesis chapter 1 presents the beginning. And somewhere in Proverbs chapter 22, we are also told the beginning that was there before the beginning. So no wonder why Christ said Lucifer or the devil was the mother from the beginning. He meant the beginning before the beginning. Anyways, let me not dwell much upon that. But what I'm trying to say here, or what I'm trying to communicate here, is that before the beginning, or before Lucifer being a murderer, he was first in the truth. I hope you are agreeing with me on this concept. So he knew the truth. In another way, I should say, he knew the truth. What constitutes heaven? Or who is the Father? Who is the Son? Uh, he even knows the angels, how heaven looks like, how the tree of life looks like, the throne of God. He knows the truth about heaven itself simply because he has been there. He was covering the glory of God. He heard God speaking with his son concerning the plan to make man in their own image, etc. Lucifer, or rather the devil, was once in the truth, but now he departed from the truth. He departed from the truth and chose to oppose that particular truth. That's why Christ said, your father, the devil, is a liar. And when he speaks of a lie, he speaks of his own. For he has been a liar and he is the father of it all. So what I was saying is, if you look at the devil, you see that before him being to before him qualifying to be called a liar, he was first in the truth. 1 John 2:19 actually says this: they went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would no doubt have continued with us. But they went out that they might be made manifest that they were not all of us. I know this verse is not speaking about it's not speaking about the devil, but there is the concept here that is similar to what we can speak about the devil, Lucifer himself. Here, John is speaking about liars, antichrists, that were so many during his days. Remember, this is the very same chapter, 1 John chapter 2, whereby we read about so many antichrists existing in John's time. So John went on to say that these antichrists, these liars, they were of us at a particular point in time back. So they went out of us. It is simply because that they were not of us. If they had been of us, they could have continued with us. Let's consider Lucifer a liar. He went out from the Father and the Son. If okay, it is simply because he was not of the Father and the Son. If he could have been of Christ and of Christ's father, he could have continued with them. But simply because he was not of them, he went out from them. So what I'm trying to say here is Lucifer went out from the Father and the Son, having known the truth. Thereby, he is the father of all lies. So he's speaking about lies simply because he is speaking contrary to the truth. So in another way, we can say that liars, or rather antichrists, are liars, those people that speak in opposition to the truth. That's what we are getting here. Okay, let's move further. in the very same book, 1 John chapter 2, we read the following: Who is a liar, but he that denieth that Jesus. Okay, so this is the verse that we read earlier on. Let me not waste time to repeat it. So the Antichrist denies something about Jesus Christ, as you can see on this verse. Having said what I was saying all along, what I wanted us to arrive at is on this concept. So hear me here well. What I'm trying to say is, or what the Bible is trying to present to us is, Antichrist denies something about Jesus Christ. Let's consider, or rather, I was presenting something about the devil. If you consider very well the devil, Lucifer, for him to be the father of lies and him to be a liar, it is simply because he knows something about Jesus Christ. He knows something about Jesus Christ. He knows that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He knows that Jesus Christ was given power. He knows everything, like, we should not say everything, but he knows much about the truth. And we know that the truth is Jesus Christ. So he knows about Jesus Christ. So when he speaks of lies, he speaks in opposition, or he opposes what actually Jesus Christ is. So this is why John is saying that who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is an antichrist. So what I wanted us to arrive at is this concept to say that antichrist denies something about the truth. And we know that the truth is Jesus Christ. So antichrist denies something about Jesus Christ. But mark my words previously, I said that for one to deny the truth, he must first know the truth. Otherwise, you cannot oppose something that you don't really understand, something that you don't really understand what it is. So Antichrist, they deny that Jesus is the Christ. In another way, they deny that Jesus is the Messiah, the anointed one. Not only that, but also they deny the fatherhood and also, rather, the fatherhood of God and also the sonship of Jesus Christ. As we have seen in that particular verse, John is saying he is an Antichrist, rather, he is Antichrist that denies the Father and the Son. So as we are living in the last days, John presented us this understanding or this concept to say that we need to consider that there are many antichrists living in our days. And how can we identify them? Those that deny something. And this something that the Bible is presenting to us, they deny something about Jesus Christ, and also they deny something about the Father and about the Son, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Father. So what we are seeing here is that Antichrist are those people that teach contrary to what Jesus Christ is. Just as in the days of John, people were denying that Jesus is the Messiah. In our days, people are denying something that that describes or that identifies who Jesus Christ is. Those people qualifies themselves to be called Antichrist. 1 John chapter 2, we are still continuing now with verse 23. John said, Whosoever denieth the Son, the same has not the Father. But he that acknowledges the Son has the Father also. So we can question ourselves to say, how do we accept or how do we acknowledge the Father and also acknowledge the Son? we will see that it is by believing. It is by believing that the Father is truly the Father and the Son is truly the Son. But when we hear the Bible is telling us that the Father is the Father and the Son is the Son, then we go about teaching to the contrary to say, no, the Father is not the Father. Actually, these are just terminologies describing this and that. You are very familiar with what I'm saying here. People tend to deny this. They tend to say, no, actually, he's not the Father. The Bible is just presenting to us this so that we should understand this, or we should do. There are a lot of lies that surrounds this concept of the fatherhood and the sonship, simply because um, uh, the father of lies presented these lying concepts to people that they should deny the Father, also to deny the Son. So this is what we are getting now in our days, to say that when we consider the presence of so many antichrists, we can identify them by knowing that those that have the knowledge of the Father, as the Bible is presenting to them, they have known the truth, but they are trying, or they are going about teaching contrary to what the Bible is saying, or the Bible is teaching concerning the Father and the Son. In another way, those that does not acknowledge, they don't actually believe, as I was asking in the first place, to say, how can we acknowledge the Father and also acknowledge the Son? We will see that it is only by believing. If we believe that he is the Son, and if we believe that God is indeed the Father, actually what we have done there is acknowledging. So John is saying that whosoever denieth rather the Son, the same also denieth the Father. But whosoever acknowledges the Son, the same also acknowledges the Father. So what actually the Bible is presenting to us is to say that if we believe the fatherhood and also believe the sonship, actually we are not grouping ourselves amongst the antichrist. But those people that deny this, those people that don't believe, they don't actually acknowledge. So what I wanted us to take, reaching this far, is this concept that the Bible is presenting to us, to say that we talk about the Antichrist as being Rome, rather, the papacy with its characteristics, but we don't normally speak about these things. We don't normally speak about those people that don't acknowledge the Father and don't acknowledge the Son. In fact, they teach to the contrary. They say, no, Jesus Christ is not actually the Son. He is this, he's just that, and that, and that, that. They talk about so many things surrounding the sonship of Jesus Christ and the fatherhood of God Himself. But actually, the Bible is telling us that if we acknowledge the Son and also acknowledge the Father, we are better off. But if we don't acknowledge, those people that don't acknowledge, then literally they qualify themselves to be called Antichrist. In fact, First John, um, okay, or maybe before we go to this point. So, as I was saying, that those that doesn't acknowledge the fatherhood and the sonship of both God and Jesus Christ, actually they qualify themselves to be called Antichrist. So this is why it is important to acknowledge the truth that God is the Father and Jesus Christ is the Son of the Father, in truth and love, in truth and in love, as the Bible says somewhere. So Antichrists, they deny this. So as we are living, I'm not trying here to say that we should be pointing fingers at people to say, okay, this particular person is an Antichrist, this particular person is an Antichrist, this and that. But as we are living, we should be reminding ourselves, when we see people denying the fatherhood of God and the sonship of Jesus Christ, we need to remind ourselves, John we need to remind ourselves of that particular verse that we read earlier on, 1 John 2:18, whereby John is saying that even now there are many antichrists. In the days that we are living, there are many antichrists. Since when we are living, we need not to actually focus our attention on one entity to say that, okay, when the Bible speaks about an antichrist, it speaks about this entity only or this particular body only. No, the Bible presents to us many antichrists. There are so many antichrists, and one group of antichrists are those people that denies the fatherhood as well as the sonship of both God and Jesus Christ. This is the first mark, or the mark of Antichrist, is the denial of the fatherhood and the sonship. To deny the truth about God and to deny the truth about Jesus Christ, that qualifies a mark of Antichrist. The other concept that we found in the Bible, speaking about Antichrist, same author, John. 1 John 4, verse 3 says, and every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God. And this is that spirit of Antichrist, whereof you have heard that it should come, and even now already is it in the world. This actually shows or tells us that this concept of Antichrist, it was well taught amongst believers in those days. Because it seems like John is just reminding the believers to say, you heard this concept of Antichrist, whereof you have heard of it, that it should come. So in those days, people were teaching much about this concept of Antichrist, and John was just reminding them. And one thing that we are hearing here is another mark, how an Antichrist is being marked. John is saying that every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God, but it is the spirit of Antichrist. So I want us to consider here, 1 John chapter 4 that we are reading here is speaking about Jesus coming in the flesh. And if we found ourselves not confessing that Jesus is come in the flesh, we rank ourselves amongst the Antichrist, simply because we have received the spirit of an Antichrist, the spirit that opposeth the truth, that teacheth contrary to the truth, that does not acknowledge the truth. So in this particular verse that we have read here, 1 John 4:3, there is a certain truth. And if we don't find ourselves confessing that particular truth, the very same verse is telling us that we will rank ourselves amongst the Antichrist, or those people that does not confess that particular truth, they rank themselves amongst the Antichrist. And what that truth is, mark these words: every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. Excuse me, English is my second language, but I can see something that the verse here is not speaking about Christ coming like in past, like something like in past tense. Sorry, as I said, English is my second language. I'm not very much conversant with it, but when it comes to uh, what do we call this? Verb tenses or whatsoever, I think you are seeing what John is trying to present here. Jesus Christ is come, like today is come in the flesh. Okay, let's do a comparison. I brought these two verses here. First John, two verses from the very same author. I just want us to do a simple comparison of the word is come, is come. So these are the verses from John. First John 4, verse 3, and First John 5, verse 20. Now, let us consider how the word is come was used in First John 4, verse 3, to see if it is in the very same usage as it is found on First John 5, verse 20. So I'll read First John 4 and First John 5. First John 4 says, and every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus is come in the flesh is not of God. Let me stop there. First John 5:20 says, and we know that the Son of God is come and has given us an understanding. What does that mean? I think we are seeing that John was trying to present this concept or this understanding to say that Jesus Christ is actually with them. You remember when Jesus was about to depart from the uh, supper's table, he gave them the discord of the comforter, and he said, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you in a little while. The world sees me not, but you see me, simply because I will be in you, except you remember those ways that came from Jesus's mouth himself. And John was right there. In fact, he was leaning on Jesus's bliss. You remember? We are told somewhere in the Gospels that this disciple was the one sitting closer to Jesus Christ, and he was actually listening attentively to what rather what his master was saying. So having that understanding, having that remembrance of those words before they departed to Gethsemane in that particular room, he remembered everything to say that Jesus Christ said he will not leave us comfortless. In fact, he promised that he will come back to us, he will be with us. And not only that, when he was sending his disciples to go and preach the word and to preach the gospel into all the world, baptizing the people or those that believes in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, he said, lo, I'm with you until the end of the world. So I think John, when he was saying that um, Jesus Christ is come on both verses, he was trying to present one thing. Jesus Christ is come. Jesus Christ is come. Like today, like by the time that John was writing that particular verse, he was trying to mean that Jesus Christ was with them. Okay? Second John chapter 1, Second John chapter 1, verse 7. But before we read this verse, so I want us to go back to this verse and remind ourselves to say that there is the truth that Christ is come. Like actually, Christ is with us. Christ is presently with us, is come like in the present day. We cannot speak about that this verse was actually speaking about the first advent of Christ, but actually it was referring to something after the first advent of Jesus Christ. I remember to have heard someone saying that, okay, like we we normally talk about the second advent, but I believe to say that we are already in the times of the second advent. Actually, what we are waiting is the third advent. So, in the first place, I was like confused to say, "Oh, what do you mean? Like we are in the we are in the days of the second advent, and we are waiting for the third advent." Then he said, "Yeah, Christ is already here. Christ has already come. That's what the Bible is telling us to say that Jesus Christ is come." And if we find ourselves denying this fact, then we are denying the words of Jesus Christ himself simply because he said, "Lo, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you." So if we deny to say that Christ is not with us, we deny to say that Jesus Christ is has not come, then maybe we should be stressing much about the second advent and the likes. But anyways, but we discussed a lot surrounding this to do with the second advent. But I understood him to say that we can be speaking about the second advent on this wise, to say that Jesus Christ has come already and he is dwelling with us. And if we don't confess that Jesus Christ is come in our flesh, he's dwelling in our flesh, then we rank ourselves with the Antichrist. So Antichrist, according to John, there is also a group of Antichrist, as he said earlier on, to say that even now there are many Antichrists. So there are so many markers that marks one to be an Antichrist. And one of it is that those that do not confess that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh. Okay. Second John chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For many deceivers are entered into the world, who confess not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh." This is a deceiver and an antichrist. I know I've been a person that used these two verses, First John 4, 3 and Second John 1, 7. I was like uh, going about with this understanding that is commonly presented amongst we Adventists, to say that actually what this verse means is that uh, Jesus Christ came in our flesh, like in a mortal flesh, the nature of the sons of Abraham, or the nature of the sons of Adam after the fall. Actually, that's the concept surrounding this verse. But when you but when you consider these two verses, you will understand that actually John was presenting the concept that he heard from Jesus Christ when he was promising them that he will come back to them. He will not leave them comfortless. Actually, what John was trying to explain here is this fact of Jesus Christ being the comforter, Jesus Christ being the advocate, dwelling amongst his people. So if there are people that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh, John said those people, they are deceivers and they qualify themselves to be Antichrist. So there, I was looking about, I was searching, rather, I should say, I was searching uh, a passage from one of the Adventist pioneers. I've just, I was just like, remember not remembering exactly who this was. Was it Eddie Jones or J.M. Canlight? These One of these people wrote something concerning Jesus Christ coming in the flesh. I remember to have quoted it and pasted it somewhere, but I searched it, but I couldn't find. So I just said, okay, anyways, let us just go with what the Bible is saying. But one of the Adventist pioneers commented on this verse to say that actually what this verse actually what it means is that Christ is actually dwelling within us. It doesn't actually mean that Christ came in the nature of the sons of Adam after the fall, as we normally teach, but actually what it means is that Christ is in our flesh, is dwelling in us, inside us. I've just forgotten, but maybe if someone can search that particular passage whereby the pioneers were commenting on First John chapter 4, verse 3, you will see what you will find what I'm saying here. Okay, let us finish our um, uh, lesson for today. So there are two marks of Antichrist that we have seen from the book of John. All these the marks of Antichrist were presented in the Bible by this one author, John, who was the beloved disciple. If you remember, he was called the beloved disciple. And he gave us the marks of Antichrist to say that one is this fact that those people that deny the Son and deny the Father, in another way, they don't acknowledge the fatherhood and rather the fatherhood of God and the sonship of Jesus Christ, they are the Antichrist. So, first mark of Antichrist, as we have seen, is the denial of Christ being the Son of God, and the denial that people go about teaching to say that God is not actually the real Father, but it means something contrary to what the Bible is presenting. They are the Antichrist. And the other mark of Antichrist that we have seen from this one author, John, is that those people that do not confess that Jesus Christ is come in our flesh, like Jesus Christ is dwelling in us. If there are people that actually don't confess that truth, then John is saying that those are the Antichrist. Actually, they are the deceivers. They go about deceiving people. That's what he wrote on 2 John chapter 1, verse 7, which is on your screen. Okay, thank you. I have seen a message on the chat box, I think. Okay, anyways, we'll get back to that. Let me finish with these two verses, then we go into the comment sections. I just want us to finish our study with these two verses. The purpose why John, the very same author, wrote his gospel. So this is the gospel according to John. He presented the purpose of his book on John chapter 20, verse 31. He said, but these, in fact, he was saying that there were so many things, so many miracles that Jesus Christ did, but they were not written in the book. So those miracles that were selected to be written, they were written for a purpose. So John was saying, okay, so this is the purpose why I thought of coming up with this gospel, or I thought of coming up with this book. He said, these are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing ye might have life through his name. So do you see these two concepts that are going hand in hand? If we believe that Jesus is the Christ, do you remember we have read somewhere concerning this very same concept, denying that Jesus is the Christ? So if we think about those people that deny that Jesus is not the Son of God, actually they are also denying that they are also telling us that Jesus is not the Christ. In another way, Jesus is not the Messiah. Jesus is not the anointed one, the one sent by God. Actually, they are teaching the other way around. They are just deceiving people. They are just presenting lies to people. But John is saying the purpose why I wrote or this book was written is for you that you should believe these two concepts that go hand in hand. The first thing is you should believe that Jesus is the Christ. In another way, Jesus truly is the Messiah, the anointed one, who was promised to be sent by God and truly was sent by God. And also, you should believe that Jesus is the Son of God. You should believe this. If you find yourself not believing this, then you will not have life through his name. But if you find yourself believing this, then you might have life through his name. And Paul said this, was speaking to the believers at Ephesus. He said, that Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith. So we see here, people, our uh, predecessor in this faith that we are, the faith that was once delivered to the saints, as Jude puts it. They believed that they were rather believing that Christ was dwelling in them. So, as our second mark of Antichrist, as we have seen that the second mark of Antichrist is this belief that people go about saying that Christ is not dwelling among, rather, Christ is not dwelling in the flesh. Christ is not in his people. So Paul was saying that Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye being rooted and grounded in love. He went on to say, you might be able to comprehend what is the breadth, the width, heights, etc., etc., etc. So what Paul was saying, that if Christ is truly dwelling in your hearts, then you'll be able to comprehend what he said downwards. If you go with Ephesians chapter 3, verse 18, going downwards, you will see what Paul was saying there. So the very concept that we have seen here is what Paul was trying to present, to say that truly Christ is dwelling, needs to dwell in our hearts, and if he is dwelling in our hearts, we will be rooted and grounded in love. So let me give a very quick summary to conclude our lesson, our study today, as we have studied from one author, John, who presented to us this concept of Antichrist. He gave two marks of Antichrist, but he said, lo, look around, you will see that there are so many Antichrists in our days. So him having very much conversant with this concept of Antichrist he only presented two marks. The first mark is that those who denies that Jesus is the Christ, those who denies rather the Father and the Son, those who denies that truly Jesus is the Son of God, they went on to say, no, Jesus Christ is not the Son of God. In fact, this sonship is all about this and all about that and all about that. It's not actually the real Son, and the Father is not actually the real Father. Let us heed what John is saying. That is the mark of Antichrist. So most of Adventists, they point fingers at Rome to say, when it comes to Antichrist, the Bible says Rome is the Antichrist. Whoa, 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 wait a minute. Have you considered, or do we consider ourselves that we can be ranking ourselves amongst the Antichrist? We might be pointing fingers at papas to say that this is the Antichrist, this is the Antichrist power. But the Bible is giving us a certain mark of Antichrist that we need to consider. How do we deal with this truth about the Father and the Son? And the other mark that we have seen today is the mark of Antichrist, whereby we are denying that Jesus Christ is not dwelling in our hearts. Yet the Bible is saying that Christ should dwell in our hearts, Christ should dwell in us. And if we go about pointing fingers at Rome to say Rome is the Antichrist, yet John is saying those also that do not acknowledge that Christ is come in the flesh, those that do not confess that Christ is come in the flesh, they are deceivers. Actually, they are not mere deceivers, but also they are Antichrist. We have seen that. So, having reached this far, I think that's what I wanted us to consider. That's what I wanted us to uh, to meditate, to think about what John wrote concerning the Antichrist. Let me end here and open the floor for questions and comments. I've spent 1 hour and 6 minutes. Thank you. May I have your comments and questions, if at all they are questions?
I have a comment after the recording is stopped.
Okay.